If what you want is real, relevant hunting, you are in the right place. With moderator Josh Miller, owner of Triple Point Outdoors, co-hosts Kevin Cook, owner of the Outdoor Pro Shop, and Brian Keitlinger, athlete and creator of Left in the Field Outdoors. Welcome to the Reinvent the Hunt podcast.
All right, everybody. Well, welcome back to the Reinvent the Hunt podcast. We're excited to have this episode on, episode 9 already. I'm Josh from Triple Point Outdoors. We've got the usual suspects, Kevin from the Outdoor Pro Shop down there, and Brian from Left in the Field Outdoors. And then tonight we have Nick from Warbuck's Deer Drone Recovery in, was it Berlin Center, Ohio, Nick?
Yep.
Okay, so that's where, like, east of Akron, right?
It's by Canfield and Salem, like right in that area.
Okay, awesome. I'll tell you what, we had some crazy weather that's been rolling through here in Ohio. I know Brian and PA's got 10 inches of rain in the past week or something.
Oh yeah, and we're getting those storms coming our way from you guys. Thanks.
Yeah, hang on to it because it's crazy. I know there's all kinds of water flowing over here, and everybody's running around picking up branches and stuff. So hoping for like a 2-month drought, but I know obviously it's great for the raw mushrooms and such. And post turkey season is about upon us here in Ohio. About 15 more days before I head out with a bear persists and try to launch a new closed cut plus turkey foot through one. So hopefully I can hit those vitals. I know they're pretty small, but we're looking forward to it. I might have to call Nick for my turkey drone recovery.
Yeah, for sure.
Or just chase it down and jump on it like those videos floating around Facebook. It might be fun too. So I want to thank Nick for coming on. Nick, I know this is a really interesting and also obviously at some points highly controversial topic. We like to talk about real things here in the podcast and just things that are new technology affecting hunting and how they cross over, and then obviously pros and cons, and kind of critique how we feel about it and be real from the perspective of hunters. So Nick, kind of tell us about the nuts and bolts of how it works and how you started this.
All right, so my uncle and I, we're big hunters, and I see on Facebook a lot of times like people saying, "Hey, I shot a deer and I can't find it," or "I have blood and I had a dog on it and it got up and it ran away." So, Mike Yoder, he's the guy that basically the founding father of the drone recovery business. And I seen those videos and I'm like, you know what, that's something real cool that I can get into. And we picked up a drone and we went on a couple calls. Realistically, this thing is a lot nicer than dogs. Dogs are nice, but if you like took a bad shot on a deer, and it's not a kill shot, if it's a liver shot or something, when that dog gets up there, deer are gonna fight. They want to live. So they're gonna get up and keep tracking. But I got this beast of a drone right here. This is the Matris 30T. It has a thermal drone camera on it. It's all folded up. It opens up. It's actually a pretty wide beast. You could fly this thing in torrential downpour that we're having right now, the weather that we're having. You could fly this in 50-mile-per-hour winds. It's equipped with a thermal drone that picks up heat signatures, which is very crucial in the tracking business. And how really this goes, someone gives me a call. I have stuff posted all over Facebook. They give me a call and they'll be like, "Hey, I just shot a deer and I think I got a pretty good shot on it." So, we start communicating, talking. And one of the downfalls with the drone is you can't go everywhere with it. The FAA has a lot of rules and regulations where you can fly and can't fly. So if you're near an airport, 9 times out of 10, I'm probably not going to be able to come out there and help you fly. So one of the first questions I ask someone is, where are you located? So I type in their address into this fly app and see if I'm able to fly before I further on the conversation, because I don't want to get too deep into something that I can't do. And then after that, we talk about if they found blood, if they found their arrow, what does the blood look like? Because, sometimes not every shot's going to be a kill shot. You wish for it.
Yep.
You might hit like the stomach. And honestly, I've been on some crazy tracks this year that I've seen people shoot the deer perfectly, like right behind the shoulder where you're supposed to, the right fundamentals and everything, clean pass through, and that deer still goes. Like, I cannot believe how tough deer are. I found that out this year. We dove real deep into it, and it's an incredible technology. I'm very proud to have it. Some pros of it You could find the deer pretty quickly. People get real excited. I love seeing people's energy when you like find their deer. They're like, "Oh my God, that's my deer!" Oh, and they're screaming. I've had guys
Yeah.
cry. I've had like, oh man, I had this grown guy that he's been chasing this deer for 5 years on his property, and he finally got the opportunity on it. But we're all hunters. You get that shake, and you're shaking when you're about to pull the trigger. And he took a bad shot on it. But hey, we found that deer. We actually tracked it for the first day. We found it was laying. It wasn't too good. I'm like, hey, bud, I'm gonna come back out in the morning. We'll check this thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, great shot. It was found 1,000 yards from where it was last seen. So we're like, hey, buddy, you know, realistically, you're not supposed to like keep following a deer if it's wounded. With like, there's a lot of laws, and a lot of people are like, hey, that's not hunting. So I told the guy, hey, um, I'm gonna seize this fly because I don't want to get in any trouble or anything, and he was cool with it. So the pros I would say is that when you see a down deer, people they want to get all geared up and get their bow or whatever, get their gun and go back out there. But realistically, you can't do that. That is against the law. That is like pursuing an animal with the drone, which is illegal. You can use it after it's shot and no one's using any equipment. Bows, guns are all put in the truck. You can pursue the deer after that. Another con is early season. You're eager to get out there. You've been having a deer on trail camera all year. You're really want to get it done. You want to seal the deal. Well, in the early season, you got these leaves on the trees, and thermal. It's an incredible technology, but it's not super powerful. Like you can't look through leaves and branches.
Mm-hmm.
So the downfall on that is early season, the first couple of weeks. It's not really good for a drone to be out there, honestly. And I tell guys that, like, I want to be open as possible with them because, I want a good name for us. And
Yeah.
also, I want to complete these stories for these hunters. If you're chasing something, you're spending all this money, I want you to find it, like that's my reason that I go out there. Um, and another thing, another big con, like you get excited, you shoot a monster buck, like it might be the biggest buck you ever shot in your life. You want to get out of that stand and start looking for it. But I always advise people, listen, do not, do not chase after that deer because if that deer gets up, no saying where it's going to go. And yeah, I have a beast of a drone, but it's not always going to find it. If you think we need to be looking over here and it's all the way over here, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to find it if you think we need to look up here. There are a lot of pros and cons, but it's effective, it's fast. You don't need to be walking through the woods all day with a dog getting tore up by jaggers. In and out. It's cold. You don't want to be out in the woods too long. You just want to be right on it. So
That's
those are some of the
incredible.
pros.
It's incredible technology. I know I probably have a ton of questions. I know you guys probably do as well. I know I personally do. This is something that it's a service. It's interesting crossover because obviously with our broadhead company, the whole intent of our broadhead company is to put the deer down or the animal down as fast and efficiently as possible to expire it and go to harvest it and get the meat first and then trophy later.
For sure.
But I think coupled with your technology, these are all technologies that, like anything, like a cell phone or whatever technology you're using, when used effectively, are really great for the hunting community. And you're going to run into situations every once in a while where somebody might try to be using it for an advantageous hunt or something they shouldn't be doing. And, that's a bad lemon. And it's society and it's the world. And we're all going to experience from even people like that sometimes. But I think what your statement is saying is, you want to recover these deer as quickly as possible in the most humane manner available. And I think it's a huge technology step forward. Even maybe coupled with dogs, that some guy or some gal out there is like, hey, I want to do it by myself first and then go that second step. And I think it's almost a responsibility of the hunter, guys. What do you feel?
I agree. It's responsible for the hunter. And, I used Nick's service, this year. And like I said, super professional. And again, I never even got out of the stand. I called Nick and I was like, hey, I shot this buck. They'd been down there once before. And I, said, I don't want it to go into the river. Mm-hmm. And Nick even brought his baby out that day with his uncle. Remember that, yeah. Nick?
Oh, I remember that. That was a crazy one.
That's cool though. I like that.
That's what I said. That
that's real.
And it honestly, you wouldn't have been able to use a dog to track that deer that day because you would have went through multiple different properties. Plus it swam across the river. And again, it did not take long for us to find that deer. And the coolest part about it is, once they located it, we drove to another spot to just check on it. And they pull out this other drone. Nick's flying this drone and he's whistling into the controller and clapping. And we could hear everything. And I'm like, man, it's not that far away. He's like, yeah, it's just right over there.
Mhm.
And again, that's the deer I ended up having, getting stolen. And Nick's uncle, it's your uncle, right, Tony?
Yeah, no, Paul.
Yeah, Paul. And he came back and he like looked through all the river and even got in the boat. He's like, nah, someone nabbed that deer. It's gone. I think it's a fantastic ethical thing. It's like anything else. There are going to be a small portion of people who are going to abuse it.
Right.
The rest of people are going to do it the right way. The people like Nick and Paul are hunters. They're professional. They're going to do it right. I mean, it's a great business. It's a great livelihood. You're not going to step around the lines and stuff. At any point in time, if they're not comfortable, I mean, they can just bring it back, shut it down, like that. We're not doing this.
The one
And
thing that
I
you
think
said about property lines is really good about the drone. The FAA states that you could fly anywhere, and you don't have to, like when you're with the dog, you have to get permission of each property. And that dog, no, that deer might have went like 4 or 5 properties.
Yep.
With the drone, and I use Onyx a lot. I fly up, I find that deer, I pinpoint it, I get the coordinates, I type it in my phone, and it will tell me exactly whose property that is. And
Okay.
that's the right way to do it. You want to get that permission.
Is
It's
there
just
a?
the right way.
I have a quick question to jump in because I heard from somebody. I want to get this clarified. Is there like I was doing this with my hands? Someone told me there's like if you took a property line, is it a 3D extrude up, from your property line, you can fly the drone within that parameter, or can you go anywhere?
So the FAA states that no one owns the airspace. So airspace is considered like 100 feet over someone's house. I think it's actually a little lower than that. It varies in different locations. But as soon as you're up above 100 feet, the only person that can tell you not to fly is the FAA.
Okay, so you can go
I
cross
can fly right
lines.
over properties, no problem. Just not
Okay.
prisons, airports, and governmental buildings.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's a great situation in my opinion too, because then just you find a deer to cross that line, and instead of trying to walk across to find it or see it and try to rush across and do something inappropriate you shouldn't be doing, you can call the landowner and say, hey, may I retrieve this? Here it is. It's on the drone. It's right there.
9 times out of 10, they will. If you're respectful and you ask for permission, instead of going behind their back, you're going to get it most times.
Yeah.
Yep. The thing that amazed me that I immediately started to laugh about is once they got up in the air, they're like, oh, there's something. Oh, that's a squirrel. I'm like, you can see a friggin' squirrel.
That's cool.
And they're like, yeah. And then like, oh, there's 2 deer right there. And these deer weren't 50 yards from the stand that I just left. I mean, it's, and now, they're using it to do inventory, or, they're going on and counting deer per square acre and things like that.
Mhm.
Technology changes all the time. And again, you're going to have positive uses for it. Places ban trail cameras. I mean, was it Utah? Ban trail. I mean,
Sure.
in different places.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you go about it doing it the right way. It's legal in Ohio. It's still not legal in Pennsylvania. And you saw the whole big thing that fell out of the Pennsylvania case, which is, I hope they get fixed. And other people are like, really? It's not legal to pursue a deer after you shoot it if it's dark? I mean, they'd opened up a whole big, huge can of worms that they're going to have to, look at and, and talk about. I've killed deer right at last light, heard them go down.
Yeah.
I go put my boat home, come back and get it. Technically, I guess I was breaking the law because I was retrieving my deer after legal hunting hours. So it's like, okay, what are we going to do with that? Yeah.
Yeah, just do what we do in Ohio. But in turkey season, we say all ground's public ground, you run fast enough, right?
That's right.
Totally kidding. Kevin, how do you feel about it?
You can shoot a deer at last light, but you can't go retrieve it.
No, we can't. You can't do that, Brian. You can't do that.
No, Nick,
Not
if
in
you've been
Pennsylvania.
following,
Really?
if you've been following that case, one of the legislators said,
And
yeah,
it was so
you,
like it was so bullshit because you know, I called game wardens and they told me
yep,
in Pennsylvania that you were allowed to do it as long as no one's wearing camouflage and all the weapons are put away. And I
yep,
said, cool. And then, you know, I talked to another one and they were like, absolutely no drones. And then I had another one told me that I can't fly a drone over state game land. So honestly, the wardens that went to school and they get paid and they're paid through the state, they don't even know the answer. So
yeah,
it's a big,
Yeah,
it's wild.
well, it's like AI.
yeah,
AI technology. It's so new. It's ever changing, and evolving, and you have political ramifications all over the place, throwing their opinions in like always. And one question I had is like public ground in Ohio. Can you do it in public ground, Nick, or not?
So I just say no because usually public land's too far for me to drive. I try to stay within an hour of my home base, hour and a half, because there are a lot of other pilots and, you know, this is a team effort and I try to incorporate people from all around the state. Um, I just, I honestly don't know the law on it specifically because I know you're not allowed to fly on game state lands,
Okay.
or land or take off. So
Man, that stuff freaks me out. I don't know about you guys, but like, going to another state, there's so many, the laws are so varied everywhere. And I get it's a state by state situation. I respect that. But
yeah,
man, it makes it tough and kind of scary to think you want to screw up and violate something you don't even know you're doing, you know?
no, for sure.
yeah,
It's,
yep. And
it's a tough.
yeah, it is. It's just one of those things where you sometimes sit and, scratch your head. You know, some of the things I've heard, especially here in PA, is if you are going to go out and retrieve a deer after you've killed it and the sun has gone down, like you said, not allowed to take weapons of this, that, but you're supposed to call your local WCO or even the local branch and say, my name is this, and I'm here at my property and I'm retrieving a deer I killed, blah, 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 blah. Okay, a common courtesy, but I mean, I don't
I mean,
I don't
yeah,
have the local WCA cell phone number on me to sit there and text and say, "Hey, I'm going to go get my deer that I killed on my property,"
yeah.
and everything else. But I mean, at least it opens the door for them to look at some things to maybe possibly change some verbiage or put some exact things in that will be beneficial. But I mean, it
They
boils
need to
down
have hunters
to,
on these boards. They need to
yeah,
have hunters on these making these political rules because people don't
For
know.
sure.
They don't know. They need to
yeah.
have hunters on these boards. In
But
Ohio, your deer is going to be coyote food overnight.
oh
It's
yeah,
just like the state
and
schools making the gun laws.
yeah,
Yes.
and it,
Yeah.
it boils down to, as hunters, we're expected to do everything we can legally to find that deer.
Mhm.
And it just seems like, okay, there's another hurdle. There's another hurdle. There's another hurdle.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, that's why I guess it is, you know, controversial in some places. And we in Pennsylvania always seem to be way behind, everything. I mean, we still can't hunt on Sundays, for crying out loud. They're trying to pass that this year.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're archaic with our blue laws and
We're
everything
just
else.
Maryland's just getting past that. We're still not past it in every county.
Yeah.
Like in some of the counties I can hunt, you can only hunt until 10:30 a.m. on a Sunday. Certain Sundays, it's
Jeez.
definitely ridiculous. If
Yeah.
I told you
Yeah.
about some of the Maryland state gun laws, oh my god, we'll be here all day,
Yeah.
all night.
Yeah. There's
So
a
I do want to say, because there's going to be, I hope, millions of people watching this. So if you are going to get a drone pilot and you have a drone pilot come out to you, or you're going to call a drone pilot, there's a couple things you want to make sure. You want to make sure I cover my address. You want to make sure that they have one of these Part 107s license, because without this, and your pilot, if he comes out there and he doesn't have that license, and someone wants to be, kind of a douchebag and call on you, which they should, um, you can lose your deer. If you have someone that comes out and they don't have a license and you paid them, you can lose your deer, and obviously the pilot's going to be in a lot of trouble. Another thing to look for, this drone is like I said earlier, it's the 30T. It is very powerful. It can fly in rain, wind, very cold. I flew this thing actually in Cleveland last week with 61 mile per hour gust. Now I landed this because this is a pretty penny. This is about $10,000. But you want to make sure people have the right drone. There's a lot of people going out there with these little drones and they're thermal. Great. You might have paid $4,000 for it. That's incredible. Like, it's a good drone, don't get me wrong. But if you're looking for a trophy and you're going to pay someone $400, you better make sure they have the right equipment. And,
Mhm.
you know, I get a lot of kickback from these other drone pilots because I made this map where all the drone pilots are listed
Mhm.
throughout the state. So if I get a call, I send them somewhere.
We'll post that, by the way, too, for you. That was a great
Yeah, for
map.
sure. Hey, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. But you know, a lot of those guys, they come out there and charge $400 and they only fly for 30 minutes or an hour. You know, I like to stay out there until the hunters like, you know what, I had enough. I can't do this. I've flown for
Yep.
6 hours one day just to make sure I found that deer because I
That's right.
I want to make sure I find it. I'm not out there
Deer.
for money. I'm out there for the like the memories, you know,
Yeah.
like this is gonna be
Yeah.
incredible. You know, like I hunted with my grandpa and my uncle and I learned everything from them. And you know, I want my kids to hunt. And you know, when I see the kids hunting with their grandpa and they give me a call, you know, it tickles my heart a little bit. You know, it makes me feel real good to see the younger generations out there.
You bet.
But yeah, those are big things you want to make sure. Make sure they have a license and make sure they have a good drone. And you know, their replicable name, they have a generator, because each battery has about an hour of flight time. And you want to make sure they're equipped because you don't want to fork $400 for a dud, you know. And just make sure you have the right pilot because there are a lot of pilots out there and a lot of guys just getting into this and they're just worried about the money. You
Yeah.
know, like I worry more about like what people are going to say about the business. And I got the good things are what spreads a lot faster. When you say something bad, you know, that just destroys people's businesses. So I always try to make sure I do everything I can.
That's phenomenal. We really appreciate all the knowledge that you bring into this. And I'll tell you, I'm thinking back of a personal story I have with my dad. Actually, we were hunting public ground, and I was at a great spot. You know, he was probably 200 yards from me, all archery. Had my vertical bow. It's been probably 10 years ago now, before the drone, technology blew up. And I had a really, it was during the rut, really nice, huge, 160 heavy 10-point frame come in, just a beast of a buck behind a hot doe, and she came right by me and he hung up at about 40 yards and he ended up going broadside. And I had one window in the V of the tree and I was not liking the shot at all. I had one shot opportunity and he stepped and he stopped right in the V of the tree. And I was waiting on him and he stopped right there and paused and I went bat and let go. Okay. And the timing was so horrible. As I let go and took a shot, he took a step forward inadvertently, just a timing situation, right? He didn't know it was coming at him. Step forward and hit him back through the liver, straight through, arrow hanging out the other side. It wasn't our broadhead, it was a different broadhead at that point in time, but I got full penetration through the deer. And he lurched forward, didn't go toward my dad, and went hooked to the right or around me. Let him go about, half an hour, got down, started looking around for arrow recovery, couldn't find it. I knew it was in him, hanging out the other side, blood everywhere, and it was public ground. So we knew, well, let's start looking for this thing and see, where we go with it because it's public ground. And it went back and forth, got dark on us, and never recovered that deer. And obviously, it's public ground, probably couldn't have found it in that situation anyway. But what I'm saying about the story is, as a bow hunter, we take, and I was talking to my wife about this earlier today, we take so many opportunities. There's an impala shot at yesterday with our Clovis Africa, and the hunter, he actually messaged me at first and thought the broadhead skipped off the top of the scapula of the impala. Went back and looked at footage, and the impala just string jumped him so horribly because they're lightning fast. Happened to me with a heavy arrow set up and not a high bow speed in South Africa. It drops 18 inches. The thousands of variables you're trying to take care of with a broadhead and archery shot are incomprehensible, but that's what makes it fun too. But we want to tell people out there that, you're going to have bad shots. It's going to happen as a bow hunter. And, I've had several people when you're young bow hunting say, well, wait a minute, you didn't recover every deer you ever shot. That's what a horrible hunter, and it's like, well, you don't understand what bow hunting is because it's going to happen to you regardless of who you are and how much time you put in the woods. So having this drone recovery just ups the chances of recovering that meat, number one, and then obviously maybe a trophy for lifetime, number two.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously you're not allowed to, pursue deer with a drone. So if a hunter shot a deer, you found it with your drone, but it was still alive. When is that hunter legally allowed to go after that deer? Like
Great question.
So
when you're
Ohio,
packed up and gone?
so Ohio actually, the game warden came onto Facebook or posted somewhere on social media. I seen it. And he said that you are allowed to pursue that deer as soon as that drone is put down, landed, and put in the case, folded up.
Mhm.
You're actively allowed to pursue that as long as it's during hunting hours.
Right.
You can't do
Right.
it after night and stuff. Um, but believe it or not, cops are here to serve and protect. But when I go do recoveries for them, they might be, a little. They want to go do something.
Yeah, right. Oh man.
Well, you got those deer too that you hit with an archery shot, like you said, Nick, earlier, and it's a perfect shot, and you get one lung, and that deer's going to live up to 5 hours, 4 hours yet, even on one
Yeah,
lung that needs
so
to go a
I
thousand
have
yards.
a couple posts on Facebook. I actually had this couple, they called me. They were on a trip to go to Maine to go on a goose hunt or a duck hunt or something. And this lady took a beautiful shot on the deer. I watched the video. It was like 25 yards. It was angling a little bit, but straight past her, both sides. Nicked the lungs. There was a bunch of blood. And I found that deer that night still up. And it was with does, chasing does. Like during the rut, when they get that little bit of
Oh
testosterone,
yeah. When
Yeah,
man, they
don't
are
stop.
gone. There's nothing stopping them.
They don't
absolutely.
stop. The rut is great for, getting a shot on a mature buck, but
Oh,
it's
for sure.
also a downfall because those deer don't stop during the rut.
Not at all.
You could put a perfectly good shot on those deer and they're just getting it. They don't care.
Yeah, I think she
Absolutely.
hit
But
one lung, but great blood. And we went
got the
back the
other one.
next day because I felt bad. I'm like, maybe he laid down and he dropped, like, he's done, he expired. And I went back the next day and no, he was still floating around. And
Man, that's
she
crazy.
told me months later, she actually just texted me, I don't know, probably like March, February, because she has her trail cameras up year round, and he made it through the winter, and he has a big scar on him. Like it's patched up. You could tell he was hit, but
Hmm.
man, they are freaks during the rut. It is
A-
I
crazy.
know
Absolutely.
they're tough any other time. The rut just makes it work.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
So you have a crazy, insane, what's your craziest recovery story? You have one that like sticks out in your mind that you did and just like it's one of those
That's
ones
not
you need to
Brian's.
tell?
All right,
That's not,
so
yeah.
I had this one call. I went out. This kid shot this buck, and we're flying, and I find this deer without its head on it, and I'm like, oh no, like, damn, I gotta tell him I'm on the remote. I'm looking at it, and I'm zooming in, and there's like hair missing. The
Uh-oh.
coyotes hit him, and the head's not missing. No, the head's missing. I'm like, oh shoot. But I'm up in the drone and I see these trails, like this trail going to this neighbor's house. And I'm like, oh my God. I follow the trail with the drone. It leads me to a four-wheeler. I zoom in
Oh
and there's
man.
knee boots. There's a looks to be a knife. I'm not too sure what it was. I was 300 feet in the air, looking like 500 yards away. And the guy's like all pissed off because he just shot this buck. He heard the kids that night and he thought they took it. So, we called the game warden. The game warden went over there. He asked the guy a couple questions, and finds out that, that he might have had a couple things that he wasn't supposed to have. Like I think he had a couple heads that he never tagged properly. And, that kind of opened up a can of worms that I wasn't expecting to open. But then in fact it wasn't the deer, as we went up to that deer and it was dead for a little bit. But the game warden said there must have been like an animal that climbed in it, and that's why I see the heat signature. But eventually I did find that deer. He shot it with a 4.4 Marlin. If anyone knows any guns, that's a big round to get hit by. They usually just crumble. But took a took a front shot at the deer and hit the shoulder, and the deer went the opposite way. But it was an insane day because we thought that was it. The game warden came and he went over there. He talked to the guy. We left because the game warden said, hey, I don't need you guys anymore. We gave him our business card. If you need any questions or anything, we'd be there for him. But he calls us back and we just turned the car around and went right back out there. And we found that deer for him. And it was a incredible story. It was the biggest deer he ever shot. I don't know. There's something about just finding someone's deer. Like you get to relive that excitement of shooting another deer.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just amazing to see him jump up. Like you see, like, I don't know how old some of you guys are. I'm 27. But like, you see like 40, 50-year-olds out there and they're jumping up excited. It's like Christmas morning all over again. And
He,
it's incredible. I love it.
he's calling you knife old Brian right there. I don't know if you feel that
Yeah.
one,
I'm sorry, guys.
but I'll tell you what, 42, going up the hills anymore. It's starting to work on the knees and the hips. I'm gonna start complaining and yell, get off my lawn pretty soon here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Man.
So how do you guys overall feel, like Brian and Kevin, like, would you use this service? I know, Brian, you have. I know, like, I mean, I would do it. Hands down, I would do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Like
And I
I
think
would,
like
sorry.
that's right.
now I was just thinking about like our last episode, how we were talking about the stigma between crossbows. There's always going to be that select few people that are going to be like, oh, well, you know, if you can't find a deer, blah blah blah. But
Blah 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 blah.
it's happened to all of us, and if it hasn't happened to you, you haven't been hunting enough.
Yep. Or you're lying.
Or you're not
Or you're
taking the
lying.
risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's
But-
just it's essential to have an opportunity, like you said, Nick, to relive that moment. But even better than that, think about the money we all put into these sports, and talk about the bow and the broadhead and the arrows and the time and the leases. Especially if you're not going to ever have that mount or cover that meat. Especially now, think about the price of inflation and cost of food. Just cost of meat in general. It's worth recovering that an animal out of respect, number one, for the hunter and the animal. And also, I think, Nick, you guys can do a good job, just like we talk about in this podcast, crossing over, hunters and non-hunters to say, hey, listen, non-hunters, look what we're doing to make sure we recover these animals that we're hunting legally using a tool,
Yeah, so we have Save the Mill Creek deer people in my area because I'm from Mahoning County, and they're all about saving the deer and stuff. But a lot of people don't understand when you have so many animals in one area, you're going to create diseases.
Yeah.
You're going to hit a carrying capacity, and deer are not going to be eating well because there's going to be so many. Like there might be 50 does in one area. They're going to shred everything. They're going to shred the fields, cornfields, anything, and when you start to get them, you're going to get that chronic wasting disease. That is from a max, like just having too many deer in one area. It's just raises disease. And us hunters, we help thin the herds and help conservation.
Yeah.
Our money for our hunting license, it goes to the wildlife, the hunt and fish people. They breed fish for us to fish. They help with pheasant programs. They help with the youth programs. So all in all the money goes around in a good program. It's not for the bad. People think that hunting's so terrible, but where do you get your meat from? I'd rather go shoot
Right.
my deer than have a cow in a butcher shop all depressed, like knowing that like maybe his buddies are they're next. I don't know. It's just
Yeah, we're all about saving deer here at Reinvent the Hunt Podcast. We save them in our freezer. You want to come by
That's right.
anytime? We got
no,
some
for sure.
frozen venison for you anytime. We just had tacos tonight. So if you've never had, an exceptional quality meal from venison, elk, I had some of the best meat in the world was moose up in Newfoundland. Moose stew was just it was I think 75-year-old lady that ran this lodge. She cooked up my wife and I some moose stew one night with some bread and butter. I mean, it was a stick in your gut, meat and potato kind of meal that just rocks your world. And so I think that's important to get out there for people to understand, it's not just technology. It's not just money floating around. This is an opportunity to bring people together rather than be divisive like we talked about in this podcast. Try to get people to come together and understand why we hunt, what that passion is, and why it's in our human collective souls,
No, absolutely.
Yeah. We want to thank you for coming on tonight, Nick, and the Warbucks Deer Driven Recovery. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more questions coming your way. Maybe we'll have you back on again and talk some more about what happens this fall and so forth. Brian and Kevin, thank you guys for coming in again. Please like, watch, share, get us out there, get us a review for the Green Hunt podcast. Check out the Warbucks Deer Driven Recovery. We're going to be posting their website on the podcast, as well as some pictures and video. You can find some things out there. I already saw some things. I saw Brian's thermal image, I'm pretty sure, of one of your deer. I think I saw it on the Facebook page. And so check it out. It's a really cool technology. And I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody out there, have a great night.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Take care.